Hi, folks. Chris Voss here from the ChrisVossShow.com, the ChrisVossShow.com. Hey, coming here with another great podcast. We certainly appreciate you guys tuning in. Be sure to go to thecvpn.com and check into all 9 of the podcasts that we have over there. You can subscribe to any one of them. There's a whole mess of wonderful education that you can get there. Chris Voss Podcast Network.com. You can also go to YouTube.com/Chris Voss. Hit that bell notification. You can see all the wonderful videos we have of all the wonderful books, authors, speakers, trainers, CEOs, all the different people that have been on the Chris Voss Show over the years. There's over 500 episodes on the Chris Voss Show, the podcast, so you can go there. You can learn so much. And besides, you're sitting around at home, why not educate yourself? You might learn some great things to start a new business, career, or all sorts of good stuff. And we have a wonderful guest today that can maybe help you with some of the issues that are coming with this pandemic that we're dealing with right now, give you some ideas, motivate you, et cetera, et cetera. Her name is Amira Alvarez. She is the founder and CEO of The Unstoppable Woman. It's a global coaching company helping entrepreneurs, empire builders, athletes, creatives, and rising stars in all fields, helping them achieve their dreams and goals in record time. As someone who's made a quantum leap, going from barely making 6 figures to making $700,000 in 1 year, then on to 7 figures, she has lived to tell about it. And she knows exactly what tactical strategies and mindset shifts are required to get out of your own way, live life on your own terms, and master the art of achieving any goal that you set your mind to. All right, welcome to the show, Amira. We're glad to have you on. How you doing today?
I'm super. How are you, Chris?
Awesome sauce. So give us some of the plugs so people can look you up on the interwebs while we're going through the interview here today.
Sure, of course. So the best place to find me is the unstoppablewoman.com. That's our website, and you can find lots of resources there. If you go to the unstoppablewoman.com/free stuff, tons of resources for people. And then the unstoppablewoman.com/listen is our podcast. And of course, you can find us on all the podcast channels. We got some great content for people in those 2 places. And then all the social media channels, either under Amira Alvarez or the Unstoppable Woman. Check us out.
Awesome sauce. And so you've got all this great stuff on there, and this is great for people right now that are thinking about doing some changing in their lives, kind of being forced upon them by what's going on with the coming sort of recession, depression we're moving into. And it's going to create some opportunities for people that want to do some different things. So let's get into it. To give us a little bit of background on yourself, where you came from, what brought you here, and what motivated you to become the Unstoppable Woman.
Absolutely. So here's my story in a nutshell. Great upbringing, nice middle-class upbringing. This is not a rags to riches story by any means, but I was someone who was playing by the rules. I was, getting the good grades, went to the good college, worked hard, got the good job, all of that, stuff that we have been told is what's going to help us have a great and amazing life. And sure enough, I had a really, really good life, but there was always something inside of me that was like, I'm made for more. I want more. I want to create something of huge impact, help the world, all of this stuff. And yet I was stuck working my ass off 12, 14, 16-hour days. And it's not that I don't believe in diligence or putting the effort in. Anyone who's an entrepreneur, anyone who's trying to go do something great in this world, whether you're working for a corporation or you have your own personal goals, you have to put the effort in. Diligence is part of it. But I was working really hard, and I had this light bulb moment where I was like, I cannot double my work hours to double my income. That was just not going to work, right?
You have to sleep and eat, every now and then.
Absolutely. Sorry, I've got something in here. And it was this light bulb moment. It was like a face palm thing. Come on already. This isn't going to scale. I can't do this. So yet when I looked out there in the greater world, there were people who had massive levels of success, and everyone defines success differently, whether it's in your relationship, your health, your finances, whatever, rubric you're using. I was really leveled out at good, but not great. And how was I going to take it to the next level? The two things I had were like, I'm smart and I work hard. But I had been smart and I'd been working hard all my life, and it wasn't, it wasn't shifting. And I kept going back and back. Like, it was like hitting your head against the wall. Like, I kept going back to these two things. I knew I could be an intellect and I could work really hard and sort things out. But anyways, at that point I was like, okay, I have to wake up here. This isn't working. And I went and I searched for what creates success. And I studied from people, and I went in a deep dive. And then I really applied the stuff that I was learning. And that year I went from 138 to 700K. And I share that because I think it's important for people to hear that it's possible. Doesn't happen for everyone.
Yeah, how much potential, where the sky is. You can work hard and you can be smart, but the key is to work smart.
Yeah, and it's work smart, and it's you have to see things differently than you've been seeing them. You can't use the same lens to do it differently than you've always been using. And I think this is pertinent, Chris, to your intro and what we were talking about like the COVID-19 pandemic and what's happening for people and how it's impacting people. And they're using the same lens that they've always used to approach what's happening right now. And it's a little overused, like you have to pivot. And it's true, you do have to pivot. But the truth is, you have to start seeing the world differently, using a different belief structure in order to see different opportunities that are here right now that have been invisible to you up until now. Does that make sense?
Most people just get trained. They're just like, hey, Dad, what do I do now? Go to college. What do I do now? I got to college. Get a job. Most people just have this mindset that they're trained, unfortunately, from their poor parents. That you just get a job and then you hope for the best.
And it's like you give your power over to the outside world.
Yeah. And then you're just their puppet at that point, because you're just like, and I'll meet people and I'll be like, so you lost your job? And they're like, yeah, I lost my job. What are you gonna do? I'm gonna get a new job. So you got to go beg someone for a job? I don't mean to put it that necessarily that way, but it's reality. It's kind of what it is. I can't ever imagine asking someone for a job. Would you like to hire me? Because I know what they're going to say. They're going to say no. Anyway, have you seen yourself lately, Chris? Have you seen your resume, sir? You've owned your own company since 18. We're not going to hire you. You don't have any. You're not good as a worker bee. That's what they're going to tell me. But no, you're right. And what you show there, and going from, I think you said 138,000 a year to upwards of 700, and then beyond that, it really shows that the potential of what you have. And of course, one of the great things about being self-employed is you get other people to work for you, and you expand your, the people that are getting you blasted out and doing it. And that's really the exponentiating factor that makes it awesome. Because I remember sitting around my company when we got to 100 employees, and I'm like, damn, this is pretty cool. I got 100 employees doing all my work. So I think I'm going to go golfing today.
Leverage there.
Leverage. There you go. That's the word we're looking for. Leverage. So you've built a great speaking career. You've got your podcast. It's got a lot of great information on it. And give us a rundown of what you do for people, yourself and your clients.
Sure, of course. So fundamentally, I help ambitious, driven people who have hit some sort of plateau in their life or business reach their big freaking goals, like what they think is impossible or what they think is going to take 30 years to actually do it in a shorter amount of time. So close the gap in time. And the majority of my clientele are entrepreneurs, solo entrepreneurs, small business owners, though I work with people in all fields and all industries and people who work in corporations as well. But the commonality is they know that they're hitting an upper limit in their lives, and it's uncomfortable. It's not what they want. They can see what they want. They can describe what they want, but they keep hitting this invisible block where they can't move past this plateau. And there's a story behind it that they make up to explain why. And yet
Excuse.
Yes. So I'm going to say yes, it's an excuse, but it's also the way our brains work. Okay. Can I riff on that for a moment,
Go
Chris?
for it.
Okay. So some of your listenership will know this already, and some of this will be new. So we have a subconscious. Our subconscious mind. Its one job in this world is the maintenance of the individual, meaning its job is to keep you alive. Okay, that's it. And if it thinks that you are doing something you've never done before, i.e. change, grow, do something new, scary, different, it's going to find whatever reason you will agree with, not something that seems ridiculous, but something that's very, very, very acceptable and reasonable to you, for you not to do that. It will convince you that this is not a good thing for you to do. So you never change, even though consciously you think, I need to do this in my business. I need to do this in my business. I need to do this in my life. I know what I need to do, but you're not acting on it, or you're finding a bunch of other things to do, or you're saying you don't have the money or the time, or your parents need you, or your kids need you, or whatever it is. There's always something. And then you realize you're in the same place, and it's 2 years, 3 years, 4 years later.
Yep. I think that's going on with my book I'm writing right now.
The truth is.
Yeah, there you go. But, we all have these belief systems that we establish in life. And like you say, we have these, I think I remember Tony Robbins years ago calling it the thermostat system, or was somebody in that genre of self-motivation where your brain, your subconscious mind kind of keeps you at that thermostat level where you're comfortable. If you kind of get uncomfortable, or like you talked about how you kind of throw some stuff at you, like a lot of times when people go on diets, their body goes, wait, are you trying to kill us? You're not eating here. This diet has the word die in it. What's going on, man? We're gonna make you hungry. And so we have to keep resetting those levels and adjusting them. And that's what people like you do, is they work with people, they coach them, they help them, they take a look. Because one of the things we do when we establish these belief systems, we establish a lot of scotomas, where we create blind spots, where we don't see what's blocking us.
Yeah.
And we hit up against those.
Absolutely. That thing that you're talking about, that you're referencing, it's called your cybernetic mechanism. It's like a thermostat, or, think of it. Here's a really great way of seeing it. So you have a rocket ship and it's going to the moon, right? You've set the GPS for the moon. Okay. Well, there's a mechanism in that rocket that will go a little bit left, a little bit right. If it goes too far to the left, it will come back to the center. If it goes too far to the right, it'll come back to the center, and it will always reach its target. Okay. Now, your self-image, who you see yourself as, which was set when you were very, very young. Okay. When your mind was an open fishbowl to your environment, and you didn't have the ability to reject the things outside of you. You were a meaning making machine, and you were trying to make the best sense of what was happening to you. And you created this meaning. And let's say it's a common one is like, I'll always be disappointed, right? Because you ask mommy for something, or you ask daddy for something, and they have money problems. So they say, money doesn't grow on trees, and who do you think you are asking for that, or whatever it is, and so you have this thing, I can't ask for what I want. I'm always going to be disappointed if I ask for something. Comes out in a lot of different ways. That's just a simple example. So now you have a self-image that says, I'm always going to be disappointed. I shouldn't ask for what I want.
And a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Well, that's exactly right, because your subconscious is then that cybernetic mechanism. Here's the goal. It knows I'm always going to be disappointed. I can't ask for what I want. And anytime you start asking for what you want, it's going to be like, nope. If you start going this way, it's going to say, no, 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 no. If you start reaching your sales goals, right, and you're not disappointed anymore, the next month, you're not going to reach your sales goals, because you've gone way too far above your set point.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And you start doing stuff to sabotage, and it's always fun. So you help work with clients, help coach them. Do they work with you one-on-one? Do you have a team? How does that work?
Yeah, lots of different ways. So I work with people in groups, high-level masterminds,
Okay.
and then I also work one-on-one with people in immersion programs and private coaching,
Mm-hmm.
VIP days, and both work extremely well. And it sort of depends on what the person is really looking for and what kind of support they need and what kind of where they're going, what they need in terms of what the best fit is.
And a coach is just like a consultant, and a lot of times we can't see what are called scotomas, which are blind spots that we have where we don't really realize what's interfering with us or holding us back. And so it helps to have that third party who comes in and goes, well, here it is right here. Whoop, there you go. I used to always tell my people in my company, I don't care whose idea it is. I just want the great idea to innovate or create or make the difference or make something work better. But being able to have that, what's the word I'm looking for? Brain group of people that can come to you and go, here's some better ways to do some stuff that you haven't noticed. And you're like, oh yeah, that's a great way to do it. So you also have a 3-day summit too that you take and do?
Yeah, absolutely. So the next one is happening in November. Fingers crossed, right?
Yeah.
Hopefully. That's going to be in San Diego. It's called the Unstoppable Woman Summit. And it's 3 days. We go through how to really claim your big goals and execute on them. How do you bridge the gap from where you are now to where you want to be and find the fastest path to that and really get out of your own way and start recognizing where those blocks are and moving through them.
And one cool thing you had on your website, this stuck out at me. You had a whole lot of details on the podcasts and webinars and digital workshops you're doing. Different things like how to make more income, how to make an income breakthrough, increasing your focus and your bottom line, how to make the impossible possible, increase your sales through conversions, stop playing small. Your dreams require more of you. True influence requires self-ownership. And then you had 15, let me see if I can pull it up here, 15 different ways to take and become a better person, I guess. I'm trying to find it here on my list. You probably name it better than I can.
Is it the Become Unstoppable?
Yeah,
15 ways to become
15
unstoppable?
ways to become unstoppable. I must have clicked on something and moved away from it. So you have a lot of great resources, the podcast and everything else. What are some of the 15 ways that you can utilize to become better at what you do? Here it is: the 15 ways to become unstoppable.
Yeah.
Number one is become a quick decider. That's a great thing to take and do. This is your blueprint.
Yeah. Do you want me to speak to that?
Yeah, if you would, please.
Sure. So I think this is one of the fundamental things that, like, when I watch people who are successful, they decide quickly and they don't change their mind very often. They might course correct, like they have their big goal, but they might course correct the small little details on how to get there, but they decide on what they want and they go do it. And whether that's like hiring someone, investing in something, someone invites them to do something, they say yes. They're like, they see the opportunity and they immediately say yes to it. And part and parcel of this, Chris, is trusting yourself. Most people don't trust themselves. They don't actually know how to make a good decision for themselves. Mm-hmm. So then they don't decide and they slow down with their decision-making process and they go into the pros and the cons, and 3 weeks, 3 months go by. Heck, that opportunity is long past at that point.
Definitely.
Okay. So really you have to learn how to decide quickly, and you have to learn how to plug into your intuition and start trusting yourself.
And you just have to go for it most times. I mean, you do have to be smart sometimes about how you do it. But, I met people that they spend years making a business plan, and you'll be like, hey, how's that business going? I'm still working on the plan. It's like, you've been doing that for 5 years. Yeah, but it's going to be the perfect plan.
Yeah, and here's the thing, it's not actually, because the moment you start going into action and putting it into on the field of play, you will notice, actually, this is a weakness, or this needs to be built, or we need to course correct around here, and the clientele don't need this, they need this. And that plan's going out the window in 3 months once it's put on the field of play. Not entirely, but much of it.
It definitely happens. I mean, I've seen it in my crazy stories. People have heard on the podcast here. Number 2, move towards the resistance.
Oh, that's a good one, Chris.
Doing
Shall I
the
go for
things,
it?
Yeah, go for it.
Oh, you can finish reading. Sorry.
Doing the things you fear and the things you don't want to.
Yeah. So here's the thing. When you are going to change and become more and make faster decisions and close the gap on time, and you're just like amping up your experience of life, you will know what to do. And then you'll be like, no, I don't want to do that. Whether it's, sometimes it's making sales calls. Sometimes it's putting yourself out there on social media. Sometimes it's, writing that proposal, right? There's something that you're resisting, you're procrastinating over. Go do that thing. That's actually the thing that you need to do. The resistance shows you that's where you need to move towards, not away.
Mm-hmm. Kind of a signal that's where, you're being held back, maybe?
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's how your subconscious is getting you to stop. Quite
this
frankly.
one I like that a lot of people are kind of afraid to do. Number 3, pick up the phone. Yeah. I mean, you can send emails to people. Like I used to meet people and I'd be like, hey, are you still out of that job? And they're like, yeah, man, I haven't gotten any work. I'm like, well, where did you apply? And they're like, I faxed like 20, 30 faxes. And you're like, did you ever follow up? You like call or anything? Or you just kind of thought that manna would fall from heaven if you sent 30 faxes? Well, yeah.
You're dating yourself, Chris, with the faxes. Oh my God.
I'm telling you, and my audience thinks I'm 20. But no, picking up the phone is a great way, especially with emails, because we do so much emailing, so much of it ends up in people's spam boxes. It's not even funny. Invest in yourself. Buy the thing, go to the event, hire the next level team member, upgrade your systems, elevate your wardrobe or environment, invest in yourself. That's a good tip.
Absolutely. So I think people have a lot of money stories, right? They get caught up in like, I'm going to run out of money. I don't have the money to do this. Is it going to have good return on investment? And I'm not advocating for not looking at your cash flow or making smart decisions, but oftentimes, I mean, the adage you have to, spend money to make money is not entirely untrue. Like, you have to be smart about it, but you also can't beat yourself up for making mistakes. Like how many team members have you hired that have not worked out? Right? It's like one of the hardest things to do. You do all the due diligence and you think you've asked all the right questions and you get the good vibe. And then you're like, oh, that didn't work. And you've spent time and effort and energy and money on this person. And yet you had to do that in order to get to the next person who then is like the spot on team member who's incredible. And that person then helps you grow your business, your life, all of that. And it's true whether it's team members or like for me, a lot of my stuff was around, I'm not worthy of, flying first class. I'm not worthy of, let's go even before that. Let's not even go to that place. Let's go to, I'm not worthy of paying for a manicure. Mm-hmm. Okay. Like $45. Like I would not spend money on myself. Mm-hmm. And yet that was so much a part of my path into stepping into, being someone I really enjoyed being. Like I wanted to look good and feel good and all of that, but I wasn't willing to expend the time or energy or money on it. Mm-hmm. And maybe a manicure isn't what you want or what another woman wants or whatever, but it was important to me and I wasn't willing to do it. So I had to learn how to invest in myself.
And there's self-care too. I mean, you've got to take care of yourself on the ride. You've got to protect your investment because you are, especially if you're an entrepreneur, your number one investment. And so feeling good, being able to take care of the things that you want and being able to take care of yourself are important. And of course, you're the image of your business as well. Reframe the experience. As Napoleon Hill often says, opportunity comes disguised in the form of misfortune or temporal. Evidently, one of my scotomas is spelling. Opportunity often comes disguised in the form of misfortune or temporary defeat.
Yeah. Well,
It's temporal, temporary.
It's all right. It's all good. This is such a big one for people. And I sort of touched on this a little bit already. You're going to make a mistake. You're going to make 1,001 mistakes. You're going to make 10,001 mistakes. You know, it's like, this is the human experience. And if you judge yourself and say you are horrible, wrong, bad, shameful, and feel guilt around every mistake that you make, you will keep yourself from ever trying something again. It will stop you. And so you really have to look at it. And it's not to say you don't learn from your mistakes or take responsibility or ownership of them. Absolutely. You want to do that. But then you also have to look and you have to see, well, what in this experience can I learn from? What's going to help me grow? What's the opportunity here? Because there's always a huge opportunity within everything. So it's a big one for me.
Number 6 is closing the gap on time. Similar to number 1, making decisions quickly, take advantage of those opportunities you get them, right?
Yeah. So here's one of the things that I'm constantly working with my clients on, because it's a scotoma. It's that blind spot. Okay. They'll say something like, okay, yep, I'll do that. I'll call him next week. I'm like, next week? How about this afternoon? How about after this call? Right. But it's like a thing. Like, people are like, well, I've got this on my calendar and I'll do it then. But what happens is then gets pushed and we get distracted and all of that. And of course, everything's not primary importance. You can't do everything now. You'll make yourself crazy. But those critical needle moving things, let's close the gap on that. Let's do it. Like, just say, okay, I'll do that now.
There you go. So just start, act on your desires and fantasies. So that's pretty interesting.
Yeah. So here's the thing. I'll talk about desires and then I'll talk about fantasies. So our desires, I believe that desire is causative, meaning it's how we know the direction that we're supposed to be going in. And it's the way our purpose, if you will, speaks to us. Okay. It's the way our life map speaks to us. And it's through these small and large desires. So a small desire might be like, hey, I want those shoes. A large desire might be, hey, he's a nice looking man, right? Like, or that's I want to be a Oscar winning, actress, right? Like, you can have big and small desires, and they if you start following them, they point you, they're the breadcrumbs that lead you to a bigger life. And then the fantasy bit is that most people don't acknowledge that they have fantasies. And whether we're talking sexual fantasies, like, that's part of it. It's like, what is that telling you about your life and what you want? But also, like, what do you fantasize about but don't tell anyone that's not sexual? That's like, maybe you really want to be on stage. Like, you really want to be speaking to people. And you have this secret fantasy to do that, but you haven't told anyone about. Mm-hmm. What are those things? Because they lead the way to your purpose.
Yeah, one of my kind of things that was kind of like, I don't know if you call it a fantasy, but it was like the far goal. And I remember seeing the CEO of Netscape, Mark Andreessen, and he had built the world's largest sailboat, and the thing was, I don't know, $1 billion or something stupid. I remember seeing the article of him, and I always thought, I don't think I'm going that far, because there's a bit of luck to that, especially with, going public with the company, especially in the technology field that they went into. But I was like, that if I could do that, that would be freaking awesome.
Have you done it?
Still working on it. I've got like a little paper sailboat that I'm but I do have being an Oscar-winning actress on my bucket list. Number 9, create the time for things.
Yeah. So you got to create the time for things. Like, if you want something, you actually have to create the time for it.
What?
Like, so much. I know. Isn't it shocking? But so many people say, oh, I want that, but I'm so busy I can't do that. And that's just BS. It
Yeah.
means that you either don't want it badly enough, or you've got a subconscious block around going after what you want.
Mhm.
Because and really those are often part and parcel of the same thing. They're not always separate. But like, if you want something badly enough and you don't have that internal block around it, you will create the time. Haven't you had that experience, Chris?
Yeah.
Like, you've kind of been resisting something, you've been blocked around it, something clicks into gear, and suddenly you're like on it and doing it.
Yep.
The time was always there. It wasn't like your work life just instantaneously opened up. You created that time because you wanted it badly enough now.
Mm-hmm. And you nailed it on the head. There are times, especially when I have a high energy level and I'm really focused, and I'll like beat into whatever that item is, and then I'll get it done. I'll be like, geez, that was so easy. Like, why did I put that off for so long? Learn and live the laws. I think this one's an interesting point here. There's 7 universal laws of success, and learn and live the laws.
Yeah. So this is one of the things that I really learned and studied and mastered when I was making my big quantum leap, and continue to teach from and study and apply. So there are 7 fundamental, foundational, universal laws that govern the universe. And they are, when you understand how to work them, the mechanism of them, and you live your life according to them as opposed to against them, like pushing, like pretending like they don't exist kind of thing, everything becomes easier. So a good analogy of this would be like the law of gravity. It's there whether you understand it or not.
I'm
right?
totally against the law of gravity, especially as I get older. I'm not like it. I'm petitioning against it. I have a GoFundMe or whatever online.
Do you have one of those like inversion machines, right?
I do. Yeah. It turns me over at night and I'm like, screw gravity.
So like, it works whether you understand that law.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't understand. I could not explain gravity, but I know that when I drop this pen, it's going to fall to the ground. Like, my experiential knowledge is there.
Yeah. My face is working on that gravity program. So understand the laws of cause and effect. That's important. This is number 11. Take personal responsibility, the laws of cause and effect. And I love this one. This is one of my favorite ones that I always talk to about entrepreneurs: being self-actualized. Yeah.
So you have to be fully expressed as yourself. And this can be a really super scary thing for people. I know that when I started this journey, one of the things that kept going on in my head was like, and I didn't really have the words for it, Chris, but I was like, I'm so worried about what other people think. I'm like turning outside of myself to figure out what's right and what I should do and what's right and wrong. And like, I felt so trapped around it. And the funny story around this, that's embarrassing, but I share it anyways, because I think it like shows how like off the deep end I was. There was one point where I looked over at my dog, who was like doing dog things. Okay. And I was like, oh, I wonder if he's upset at me because I didn't do blah, blah, blah. Like what the friggity frick? Okay. Like, my dog is not in judgment. Can I tell you? Okay. Like, my dog is not going, you're right, you're wrong. You should be ashamed of that. Right. It's just crazy.
Are you wearing that today?
Yeah, totally.
That sort of thing. Seriously, are you wearing those shoes with that dress?
Yeah, that's no good, man.
I think that's a cat that does that, though. It's more the cat that does the judging. Dogs are like, give me a treat.
It was such a freaking wake-up call, Chris. Because I did not know how to make good decisions for myself, because it was so much based on what other people said, what society said, what was out there. And so I was always contorting myself, quite frankly, to fit into someone else's mold. And you can't be you in this world and grow and make clear decisions if you are not owning yourself
Mhm.
And that was a big part of my breakthrough in terms of finances as well.
And you can get in the trap of trying to be what you think it should be, or I
Yeah.
got into the trap of what I thought a CEO should be, or what someone who's ultra rich should be and do and own, and
Yeah.
and then you kind of wake up one day and you're like, well, this party runs as long as I'm paying for it, but the only reason anyone likes me is because I am, and then you end up owning shit that owns you, and you're just like, I don't even like half this stuff. It's like, I'm just doing this to impress people that I love the old
So
Fight
good.
Club line that to impress people that don't, you buy all this stuff to impress people that they don't care.
Yeah.
And there are people, I think women struggle with this more just because of the way they're designed. And God bless them, but I think they struggle more with what people think of them, and they're a little bit more concerned about that than men are. Men are just kind of like, fuck it, I'm just going through, um and and there are a lot of people that think, that's one thing that holds them up. They feel people are judging them. They're like, well, if I do something wrong or I make a mistake, everyone's gonna see it, and they're gonna be like, oh, that guy's an idiot over there. I
Keeps you
remember,
trapped.
yeah. And it traps you. And fortunately, most of us, as we get older, we kind of realize that most people really just don't give a crap about like, I remember I think I had one of my exes say it. She's like, you need to dress up before we go to the restaurant. And I'm like, why? I can afford to go to the oyster bar. I worked really hard. I did all this hard work. I'm going on my shorts and I don't care. She's like, well, people see you and they'll judge you. And I'm like, everyone's not sitting at the oyster bar going, Chris is here, it's time to review Chris and look at his fashion statement that he's making. So there's that, but it's definitely important. Let's see. I think we're at look at your results. Looking at your results. If you're not getting results you want, guess what? You're in the story. Excuse or some lie that helps you stay exactly where you are in a safe place.
Yeah. So this is important. So you know how we've been talking about the blind spot, the scutoma, the belief patterns, the subconscious programming, all of that keeps you hitting that same level over and over again and not getting the results you want.
Mm-hmm.
The way to know if you're in a story, if you're in that sort of psycho-cybernetics, like self-leveling experience, is to look at your results.
Mm-hmm.
It's really super simple.
Yeah.
But if you've been getting the same results that you've been getting for the last 3 months, 6 months, 2 years, 10 years, if you keep saying at the beginning of the year, I'm going to start the new fitness routine, I'm going to let go of the weight, I'm going to grow my business X amount, I'm going to have a better relationship, whatever that is, I don't care what that is. But if you keep saying you want something, but you keep getting basically the same results, you're locked in a story, you're trapped.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. I'm still working with my script writers on mine, but that's why people hire people like you, is to write better, improve that script, take it to the next level. Number 13, better your best. This sounds like a Who song. Better you, bet. No, I'm just kidding. Better your best. You can always, this is about always growing to the next level and living in the growth mindset. Yeah, because you've always got to go to the next level. And then, of course, there are changes that come at you from life and business that you've got to adjust to as well. It doesn't, like, I always thought that once I got successful in business, it's kind of like, oh, yeah, just milk that trajectory for 40 years. But it's not. Business changes, life changes, circumstances change, and you have to adopt and adapt, or both.
Also, I would say, if you don't keep growing, you're dying. You've heard that before. You're either creating or you're disintegrating. Okay. And we don't, there's a myth of balance or homeostasis, or like, I'm going to get there and then I'm going to retire. Well, guess what? No, you have to keep growing. Otherwise you will emotionally be miserable.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's what bettering your best. I mean, it helps your business bottom line, but it also helps your psychology as well.
Definitely. And it keeps you on your edge. I love Warren Buffett saying that he'll retire 7 years after he dies. So I'm going with that. Probably have to, actually, at this point. Number 14, have integrity. Treat everyone with respect, whether they're the assistant or the CEO, busboy, or the owner. This is really important, I think.
Absolutely. I don't like, here's the thing. It seems so obvious, but oftentimes people are very status oriented and they get caught up in ego, and it's just not pretty. Okay.
Yeah.
It doesn't serve you, doesn't serve the world. And if anyone on my team tells me one of my clients has treated them poorly, like I'm like, whoa, okay, we're having a conversation, or if it's totally egregious, which that has never actually happened, where it's been over the friggin' top, they wouldn't be a client anymore. Like
Yeah.
it's like I'm very pleased that I don't attract people like that, but I'm just not available for people who treat other people poorly. Now, this doesn't mean that different people have different roles and responsibilities and all of that, but it is, there's respect. Yeah.
And I've seen that with CEOs that I've studied or work with. It almost is in itself a destructive scotoma or pattern that they have, a sabotage that they have. I mean, I've met some CEOs that their path of destruction is barely staying behind their avalanche of success, and you're just like, you're really not that far off from hitting the wall. Steve Jobs was a lot of that way. He wasn't quite as destructive, but he was very destructive to staff and people. And actually to a few other people, I believe his daughter, and et cetera, et cetera. But there, some people have that. Integrity is a real important thing to do, because if your head gets lost in the ego game, you can really either have an inflated value of yourself that becomes kind of just beyond the world of fantasy, and then you're out of touch with reality, and you don't see what's coming at you until until that train comes down the pike. Number 15, the last one here in your 15 list, master the mental aspect of success. I really love these. You have leverage over your subconscious programming and stop sabotaging your success.
Yeah. So we've talked a little bit about this already, but there's just so much to this. You have to manage your mindset, because if let's say you make a mistake, your ego, going back to the previous one, your ego gets the best of you. You're all like got this high sense of self, and not that that's bad. I think everyone needs to like and love themselves, quite frankly, but not in a I'm better than you kind of way. Okay. Yeah. So, but let's say there's a misstep. You're tired, something bad happened, you're grumpy, and it's the first time in 10 years and you snap at someone. Okay. Mm-hmm. Are you going to crucify yourself in that moment and stop yourself from any growth? That would not be having a mental aspect for success. Okay. Like the way to frame it or look at it is to use that personal responsibility piece. I own that. That was a misstep. That was a mistake. That's not who I want to be. That's not who I am at my core. Apologize. Learn what you need to do differently. Maybe I need more sleep. Maybe I need to not have so much on my plate. Maybe I need to frame the conversation differently at the beginning so I don't get triggered. Whatever it is, and then let it go.
Yeah.
Okay. And learn from it. That's how to manage your mindset. But so many people, and there's so many, that's just one example, but there's so many people who get stuck in the rumination, get stuck in the self-flagellation, the personal judgment, the voices in their head, and they can't then keep going. That's where they stop.
That's why I have multiple personalities. It helps segment the voices in my head. But no, you're definitely right. That's what I love about being self-employed. You really have to self-actualize, and you have to have a lot of responsibility. If you don't, you're gonna have some problems. But it makes you get really clear, and if you don't, it probably will make you get really clear on. You better know who you are. You better know what you're responsible to. And one other point to that that I was reminded about, it can affect you in your business too if you don't perform with integrity and a good moral sort of compass and how you treat other human beings. I have a lot of friends who write books, they speak and everything, and you'll hear these whisper things where you'll hear about the reputation, because you'll be like, that guy who goes up and tells how to be the greatest human being and love everyone and hug and all that kind of crap. You should see what they do to their assistants if they screw up behind the stage or something, and they just tear somebody. Like I've had, there's some stories that gone around about how they've torn their people up, just destroyed them backstage, and like with people watching, and then people just go, "You're a freaking fraud."
Totally.
And it affects their business and stuff.
Absolutely. I think there's two things on this that I want to share. One, stress is real, but that's still unacceptable if you need to walk your talk.
Yeah.
And one of the biggest I am not perfect, Chris. Okay. I just want to raise my hand and say I'm not perfect. Okay.
I'll join
but
you.
Yeah.
That I'm not perfect. Not that you're not perfect. I don't know you well enough, but I'll take your word for it.
But one of the biggest compliments I had ever in my career was I was at an event. I was on stage. I was teaching. It was one of these summits that I do. And one of my staff members, she was a contractor at the time. She's now an employee, but she was a contractor who had worked for me for a couple years at that point, came to the event as an attendee. She was really interested in what I was doing and came as an attendee. And I was talking about this very thing, okay? And people were asking questions, and she basically said the same thing that you said, like, I work with so many people in this industry, and they say this thing, but then they treat you like crap behind the scenes. And the reason I'm here in this room is because Amira doesn't do that. And I was like, kind of like, my ego got a little bit big, I have to admit. But I was like, oh, that's such a great reflection. Because I'm not thinking about that. I'm holding myself to a high standard, but I'm not thinking that I'm so different from everyone. But I think that this is there's actually a really big problem in the transformational coaching industry in general, the lack of integrity in walking your talk, and also just in life in general. Yeah. Again, I'm not saying that you have to be perfect and crucify yourself if you're not, but there is like, when you're not, when you're not walking the talk.
Yeah. And sometimes you gotta apologize and be like, I'm sorry, man. I just woke up on the wrong side of the bed today and didn't have my coffee, and I always liken it to that SNL bit with Chris Farley where he grabs it was Dana Carvey. No, he grabs the other gentleman, and he goes, "Oh, I'm hungry." And I've always, one of my favorite shirts when I was going through veganism was, I would please forgive me for the things I say while I'm starving or something else. Yeah.
Hangry is real, right?
Hangry is real, yeah. We've all been there. We've had those moments, but like you say, consistency and stuff like that. So great tips that you have there. You've got a lot of other good stuff that, we could probably be reading through your website for a while. Lots of wonderful free stuff, action items to speed scaling to jumpstart your income breakthrough. You go through that on your podcast as well. So it's great. You have this wonderful material people can engage with, and they can go to theunstoppablewoman.com. You have the business boot camp, the summit. I hope that goes off well. I've got my fingers crossed as well for different events happening at the end of this year. And then I have my big show CES in January that I'm hoping they're going to have testing for. I'm going to cry if they cancel that show. I'll be in tears. But great stuff. And how long have you been doing this, Amira?
So about 6 years.
Nice.
So yeah, it's been so much fun. The business keeps growing. I love my clients. Like, it lights me up every single day, like that this is what I get to do in this world, and to see people really step forward. And it's not just me that's had the success, right? Mm-hmm. Like, there are people who are just starting out in their career, and they're now like, they're going from the 5K month to the 10K month. That's huge for them. And then other people who have gone from sort of similar, even better than what I did, went from 188 to 1.2 in 1 year. That was a freaking like, woo-hoo, and I just get so much, but let me step back from the money stuff. Cause as entrepreneurs, we do we're in business. Like, let's not shy away from the money stuff. But fundamentally, it's like my clients get to live at such a higher level. They start, like we were talking about, like they start liking themselves and they start loving themselves, and they stop feeling trapped in like they have to contort themselves to get by in life, and they start being freaking in charge of their world, and they're no longer like trapped and feeling afraid. And I love that.
Yeah, it's awesome. I mean, it's amazing because we always think of people that make a lot of money or they're successful, that they're perfect and they've got it all, their shit all figured out.
No.
And that's not true. I mean, you can be making $3 million a year and you can be unhappy as shit. I think that's where I've been. And you're just like, why does everyone hate me? I thought the more successful I would be, the more people would like me. But it seems like I just can never do enough for anybody. And so we all go through that, and it's fun to see people start out. One of the things that hopefully will come out of this crisis we're going through is, and people in my tech community, people in Silicon Valley that I'm friends with, are already starting to talk about this. After the Great Recession that we had in 2008, a whole lot of wonderful, dynamic new technologies and new entrepreneurs came onto the scene, and all these people, it forced them into an opportunity to create new things. We talked about this pre-show. There's probably gonna be a lot of divorces happening, so there's gonna be a lot of people recreating their lives and maybe starting some new businesses, getting out of molds that they had before. And so there's going to be a lot of destruction, but I don't know about your life, but I've been through some destruction in mine, some catharsis moments that have torn me down, rebuilt me, and put me on some better pathways. I certainly went through that in 2008, which kind of makes me more comfortable with what's going on right now, because I lived through that, and I adjusted and changed in my trajectory, and so now I can look at this and go, I think I could be okay as long as I don't get that virus. But even then, maybe I'll survive that too. Who knows? I'm going to do whatever I can to stay out of it. So anything more we need to know, Amira, about you and what you guys are doing there?
Really, if people are interested in not like self-actualization in the form of growing their business, reach out to me. I'd love to talk to you. Okay. Cool. This is my bailiwick. This is what I help people do. I help them get out of their own way and really rock it out and become unstoppable, which doesn't mean that you're perfect. Okay. But it does mean that you close the gap on time and you move through those internal self-sabotages so much quicker.
Awesome sauce. So you can reach out to her at theunstoppablewoman.com. You can listen to her podcast. You can get in with her business coaching. You can attend her summit and webinars and things. And she's got a lot of great recommendations too here on her website. Blog posts. She has her own blog too as well. And yeah, man, this is a great time. I when I hear that people are just sitting around vegging out on some of this stay home stuff, maybe their employer has said, here's some money, here's some unemployment money, just stay home for, a month or two. And people are like, oh, I'm going to sit and catch up on, Game of Thrones or something. No, man, this is a great time to reinvest in yourself and maybe either get better at what you're currently doing with your company and learn some more education so you can provide more value and make more money and maybe move up the ranks or start a new business. I mean, this is usually in times like this, there's a lot of opportunity. There's a lot of volatile change that's going to take place, and there's a lot of new models that we're going to have to look at. I mean, we're really shaking up the model business here with the pandemic and what's going to happen to business and unemployment and the new way we have to think and interact with each other in business and everything else that we've been talking on the Chris Voss Show. So it's a good time to get into that. So anyway, I appreciate you being on the show, Amira. It's been wonderful. And we've given some people some incredible tools and valuable resources they can take and use.
Thank you so much for having me here, Chris. This was fun to jam with you. I love your sense of humor.
Sounds good. Anytime. So we love to have you back. If you come back, it's like SNL. If you come back several times, we get like a robe and everything.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah, it'll have gum in the pockets, but it's, we don't have SNL's budget, so but it's not used gum though. I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about. All right, guys. Well, we certainly appreciate you guys tuning in. Be sure to go to Amira's website, theunstoppablewoman.com. Check her out. Reach out to her. She's also on the Twitter sphere there, the Facebook, the Instagram, the LinkedIn, the YouTube. She's got her own YouTube channel, so you can take and watch and learn. And I really implore people, this is a great time if you're sitting around at home. Learn some new stuff, expand your mind, expand yourself, change your life. I mean, I've been through these cathartic changes before, and and you can look at them as a depressing, dark time, and there is going to be a struggle there, but there's also opportunity. And sometimes that opportunity is these are those moments for that opportunity. So be sure to capture them. Thanks to my audience for always being here. We certainly appreciate you guys. Watch for upcoming interviews. We've got I think we have a candidate who's running for governor of a state coming up. We have some great book authors coming up as well. Be sure to go to youtube.com/Chris Voss. Hit that bell ding notification. I do my own sound effects. It's that kind of show. Notifications, so you get all the notifications for all those cool videos. This one will be up, of course, on the Chris Voss Show if you're listening on the audio podcast. You can also go to thecvpn.com or chrisvosspodcastnetwork.com. We have this amazing technology. You can click either of those links and they go to the same place. Whoa. It's like 2020 right now. So you can subscribe to 9 different podcasts, and you can learn all sorts of stuff. Meanwhile, you can listen to Amira's podcast as well, and your brain is going to be so large, you may have to get a larger skull. Anyway, guys, thanks for tuning in. We appreciate you, and we'll see you next time.